2,000 years ago, the Romans built highways that still exist, aqueducts that carried clean water for miles, concrete that outlasted empires, and war machines that terrified their enemies. Rome's true power wasn't just in its legions, it was in its technology. And the world we live in today still carries their legacy. If you're fascinated by how ancient Rome shaped our future, then stay with us and don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and comment to keep this history alive. Imagine standing on the outskirts of ancient Rome. The year is 100 AD. Rising above the fields, stretching across valleys and hills, are colossal stone arches that seem almost impossible for their time. These weren't just monuments to Roman pride, they were lifelines. They were aqueducts, the arteries of the empire. Before Rome, most cities struggled with water. Villages depended on rivers or wells, often dirty, often unreliable. But the Romans had bigger ambitions. They needed water for millions of people, for baths, fountains, gardens, and even for their military camps. So, they engineered one of the most sophisticated water systems the world had ever seen. Aqueducts carried fresh spring water from miles away, sometimes from mountains over 50 miles distant, and delivered it straight into the city. Using nothing more than gravity, Roman engineers designed a steady, controlled flow across landscapes, cutting tunnels through hills, bridging valleys with towering arcades, and channeling water into massive cisterns. When that water finally reached the city, it poured into fountains where citizens could drink freely, into bathhouses where thousands could gather to wash and socialize, and into private homes of the wealthy who enjoyed running water centuries before modern plumbing. The Cloaca Maxima, one of the world's first great sewer systems, carried the waste out, making Rome far cleaner and healthier than most cities of its time. But perhaps the most astonishing thing about aqueducts is their endurance. Built with stone, concrete, and a genius understanding of hydraulics, many Roman aqueducts still stand today. The Aqua Virgo, completed in 19 BC, still supplies water to fountains in Rome, including the world-famous Trevi Fountain. That means for over 2,000 years, water has flowed through a system built by hand without modern machines. For the Romans, water wasn't just about survival. It was about power. Providing fresh, clean water to millions of people showed the strength of the empire, and it made Rome the envy of the world. These aqueducts proved that Rome's genius wasn't just in conquest, it was in construction. Now imagine leaving the heart of Rome and stepping onto a road paved more than 2,000 years ago. Under your feet you'd find massive flat stones, perfectly cut and tightly packed, stretching in a straight line so far you can't see the end. That's the genius of Roman roads, built so well that many of them are still here today. The Romans didn't just build roads, they built a network. Over 250,000 miles of them spread across the empire, from the deserts of Egypt to the rainy hills of Britain. They weren't crooked paths or dirt trails. These were highways designed with military precision. Every road followed the shortest, most direct route, cutting through forests, mountains, and swamps. Straight, strong, and nearly indestructible. So how did they do it? Roman engineers dug trenches, laid down gravel for drainage, then stacked layers of stone and sand before setting heavy paving slabs on top. This wasn't just construction, it was science. Rainwater ran off the sides, the layers absorbed pressure, and carts could travel quickly without sinking into mud. Soldiers, merchants, and messengers could march or ride without delay. A Roman legion could cover 20 miles in a single day, and that speed often decided the fate of battles. But these roads weren't only for war. They carried ideas, cultures, and trade. Olive oil from Spain, glass from Egypt, spices from the East all traveled along Rome's highways. The roads were the empire's veins, pumping life and wealth through every province. And here's the incredible part. Many of those same routes are still in use today. The famous Appian Way, built in 312 BC, remains walkable, and parts of it are still connected to modern roads in Italy. Imagine driving your car over a path that Julius Caesar once marched his armies on. It's not just history, it's living history. The Romans even had milestones, literally stone markers placed every mile to show travelers how far they had gone and how far to the next town. In a way, they created the first GPS system of the ancient world. Rome knew that roads didn't just connect cities, they connected power. The saying, "all roads lead to Rome," wasn't just a metaphor, it was true. Every major road in the empire eventually pointed back to the capital, reminding the world who ruled it. So when you think of Roman power, don't just imagine swords and shields. Think of stones beneath your feet, stones that carried armies, trade, and culture across 3 continents and never truly disappeared. If roads were the veins of Rome, then concrete was its backbone. Without it, the Colosseum, the Pantheon, and the massive aqueducts would never have stood. In fact, concrete was Rome's secret weapon, the material that allowed them to build bigger, stronger, and longer-lasting structures than anyone before them. So what made Roman concrete so special? The recipe was surprisingly simple: volcanic ash, lime, and seawater. But here's the twist. The combination caused a chemical reaction that made the concrete grow stronger over time, not weaker. Unlike modern concrete, which eventually cracks and crumbles, Roman concrete could heal itself. When seawater seeped into the cracks, it sparked new minerals to form, sealing the damage. It was nature and engineering working together. Take the Colosseum, the largest amphitheater the world has ever seen. Built almost 2,000 years ago, it could seat more than 50,000 people. Its arches and vaulted ceilings weren't just beautiful, they were functional, distributing weight evenly so the building could rise higher than anything before it. Even after earthquakes and centuries of wear, much of the Colosseum still stands, and then there's the Pantheon. Look up at its dome, still the largest unreinforced concrete dome in the world. How did they do it? Roman engineers mixed lighter materials like pumice at the top, heavier stones at the base, and carved hidden arches inside the structure to distribute pressure. It was a perfect balance of art and science. Standing under that dome today feels like standing inside a miracle of engineering. Concrete wasn't just for grand monuments. Romans used it everywhere, in bridges, harbors, warehouses, and even apartment blocks. Ordinary citizens lived in multi-story housing complexes called insulae, many of them built from concrete. Rome was the first city in history to look like a true metropolis, with buildings rising high into the sky. And here's the amazing part. The techniques the Romans developed are still influencing architecture today. From skyscrapers to stadiums, the legacy of Roman concrete is everywhere around us. Engineers are even studying it right now to learn how to make modern concrete as durable as theirs. So when you think of Roman architecture, don't just picture ruins. Picture innovation so powerful that it has outlasted empires, earthquakes, and centuries of change. Rome didn't just build buildings, they built eternity. When most of the ancient world struggled with dirt, disease, and discomfort, Rome stood apart. The empire didn't just conquer, it civilized. Step inside a Roman city, and you'd see something almost unthinkable for the time. Public baths with hot water, underground sewers, flushing toilets, and even heated floors. This was a world centuries ahead of its time. Let's start with the Roman baths. They weren't just places to wash, they were the heartbeat of Roman social life. Imagine a sprawling complex larger than a modern-day shopping mall, filled with steaming pools, cold plunges, exercise courts, libraries, and gardens. Citizens of all classes came together here to relax, gossip, do business, or simply enjoy a good soak. For just a small fee, you could spend hours moving from hot baths, caldarium, to warm tepidarium, then plunging into the cold, frigidarium, to refresh your body, heated by giant furnaces beneath the floors. This was luxury on a scale the world had never seen. Now think about the Cloaca Maxima, Rome's sewer system. Built more than 2,500 years ago, it was one of the first in the world, and parts of it still work today. Rainwater and waste were carried out of the city into the Tiber River, keeping the streets clean and the population healthier. While most ancient cities reeked of filth and disease, Rome smelled of fountains, gardens, and fresh air. Sanitation wasn't just a convenience, it was a tool of empire. A healthy population meant a stronger Rome. The wealthy took it even further. Many elite Roman homes had running water piped directly in through lead pipes, feeding fountains, kitchens, and even indoor bathrooms. Some villas had heated floors thanks to the hypocaust system, a network of underground channels where hot air from furnaces circulated, warming the rooms above. Imagine stepping out of bed on a cold winter morning, only to feel warmth rising from the floor beneath your feet. That was Rome 2,000 years ago. But these comforts weren't just about luxury, they were about identity. Clean water, warm baths, and organized streets were proof that Rome was not like the barbarians beyond its borders. Roman technology gave its people dignity, health, and pride, making them believe in the greatness of their empire. And here's the legacy. Many of the things we consider essential today, public sanitation, central heating, community bathing, even the idea of indoor plumbing, started with Rome. Every time you turn on a tap, step into a hot shower, or walk through a clean city street, you're living with the gifts of Roman innovation. For the Romans, comfort wasn't just about enjoying life. It was a statement to the world. This is what it means to live in Rome. If Roman aqueducts and roads showed their brilliance in peace, their war machines proved their genius in battle. The empire didn't expand across 3 continents by luck. It expanded because Rome's military technology was centuries ahead of its rivals. Picture a battlefield. Roman soldiers march in perfect formation, their shields locking together like the scales of a giant beast. This was the famous testudo, or tortoise formation, nearly impossible for arrows to penetrate. Behind those walls of shields, Rome advanced like an unstoppable machine, but their true edge came from engineering. The Romans built siege engines that turned castles and walled cities into fragile targets. They had the ballista, a massive crossbow powered by twisted ropes, launching bolts the size of spears across incredible distances. They had the onager, a catapult that hurled heavy stones with deadly force, smashing walls into rubble. And they had mobile siege towers, wooden giants rolled to enemy gates, allowing soldiers to storm walls from above. What made Rome terrifying was not just its weapons, but its speed. The legions carried portable forts with them. Wherever they marched, they built a fully functional camp in a single night, complete with walls, trenches, and gates. Enemies often woke up to find an entire Roman city rising on their borders, built in hours, defended like stone. Even logistics were a weapon. Roman armies traveled light but efficiently. Roads allowed them to move supplies faster than their enemies. Portable bridges let them cross rivers where no one thought possible. Julius Caesar once built a bridge over the Rhine River in just 10 days, simply to show Germanic tribes that no barrier could stop Rome. After crossing, he dismantled it, leaving nothing but fear behind. The Roman navy added another layer of power. With ships armed with the corvus, a boarding bridge, Rome turned sea battles into land battles. Instead of relying on sailing skill, they hooked enemy ships and stormed them like fortresses, using their discipline to crush foes who once ruled the waves. But perhaps the greatest Roman weapon wasn't steel or stone. It was order. Every soldier was trained, every move rehearsed. Roman armies were less like fighters and more like living machines, each man a cog in an empire-wide engine. That precision, combined with their engineering, made Rome almost unbeatable for centuries. Their enemies saw them as unstoppable. But history shows us this: Rome's power came from brains as much as from brawn. Their war machines were not just weapons of destruction. They were tools of domination, designed to spread fear, order, and the name of Rome across the world. Rome fell more than 2,500 years ago, but its technology never truly disappeared. Walk through any modern city today and you'll see pieces of Rome everywhere, sometimes hidden in plain sight. Every time you drive down a highway, you're following the design of Roman roads. Their straight lines and layered construction inspired the blueprints of modern infrastructure. Every time water flows from a tap, you're witnessing the legacy of Roman aqueducts, which carried clean water long before most civilizations dreamed of it. When engineers pour concrete for skyscrapers and stadiums, they're rediscovering secrets the Romans mastered 2,000 years ago. Even our daily comforts, heating systems, sewage management, and public sanitation owe their roots to Roman innovation. The Hippocaust became the ancestor of central heating. The Cloaca Maxima became the model for modern sewer systems. The very idea that cities should provide clean water and hygiene for all citizens began in Rome, and in war the influence lingers too. Modern military engineering, from portable bridges to siege tactics, still carries echoes of Roman innovation. The precision, discipline, and logistics that powered the legions shaped the way armies still fight today. Rome's true genius was this: they didn't just build for themselves, they built for time. Their aqueducts still stand, their roads still guide travelers, their monuments still awe millions. Even in ruins, their technology whispers across centuries, reminding us that human progress is not only about invention, it's about endurance. The empire may have fallen, but the world Rome created never left us. We still live in its shadow, walking on its stones, drinking from its fountains, and learning from its engineers. Rome's technology didn't just build an empire, it built the future. Rome may have fallen, its emperors long gone, its legions scattered, but its technology still breathes in our world. Every highway we travel, every bridge we cross, every building that defies time, carries whispers of Roman genius. They built not just for themselves, but for all of history, and in many ways we are still walking the roads of Rome. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the empire of engineers. If you enjoyed this story and want more history brought to life, don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and leave a comment. Your support keeps these stories alive just as Rome's legacy lives on in us.